Good morning, and thank you for coming out this morning. My name is David Perdue. I'm the relatively new U.S. Ambassador to the People's Republic of China. I'm honored to be here today with some really pioneers from the United States House of Representatives. As a matter of fact, this delegation you see here is the first U.S. congressional delegation from the U.S. House since 2019. On Sunday, we met with Premier Lee. Yesterday, we met with Minister Dong Jun. And we've also met with Minister He Feng. We've had great dialogues, and we look forward to more in the rest of this week. With us today, we have Representative Adam Smith, who is the ranking member from the House of Representatives Armed Services Committee. He's from the great state of Washington, and he's got 28 years in Congress. So this is he's been here many times, and he's been a great leader of this delegation this week. Also from the great state of Washington, we have Michael Baumgartner, who is also on the Foreign Relations Committee in the House of Representatives. And then we have Ro Khanna from the great state of California, also on the Armed Services Committee, and then Chrissy Houlihan from the great state of Pennsylvania, also on the Armed Services Committee. Our purpose this week is to open the dialogue between the great country of China and the great country of the United States. One of the problems we've had is after COVID, we have not had a lot of interaction. And so this week is a great opportunity for us to open those doors and channels of communication. We had a great breakfast this morning with the prior ambassador, Sui Tiankai, and just a tremendous conversation this morning. So with that, I'm going to introduce Congressman Adam Smith to make a couple comments, and we'll take a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I really appreciate that. And I want to start by a couple of thank yous to Ambassador Perdue and to his team at the United States Embassy. This is an incredibly talented group of people that are representing the United States well, and their interactions with the Chinese government and the Chinese people, I think, are crucial to what the ambassador referenced about the need to improve dialogue and improve understanding between our two countries. I also want to thank the Chinese government, the leadership. They've been very generous with their time. We've had robust and very helpful meetings, which I very much appreciate. They have welcomed us in. I thank my colleagues for joining me on this trip. I think the ambassador made it very clear what we're trying to accomplish. We want to open up the lines of communication. Without any question, China and the United States are the two most powerful countries in the world. Our relationship is going to be the most consequential relationship in terms of what the world is going to be like for decades to come. It is really important that we work to strengthen that relationship and better understand each other. It is absolutely the case that we have disagreements, but everybody has disagreements. You have to set up mechanisms for being able to talk about those disagreements and resolve them in the most reasonable way possible. And I feel strongly that there has not been enough communication between leaders in the U.S. and leaders in China, and we want to work to fix that problem, to open up the lines of communication and begin that dialogue. I don't presume to know what the answers are. How would we resolve all of those disagreements? I don't think anybody does. But I know we won't resolve them if we don't start having a better conversation about it and a better understanding of each other. Now, as mentioned, I'm the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. I've served on that committee now for going on 29 years, and the military-to-military relationship between China and the U.S. is of particular concern. China is the most rapidly growing military and the most rapidly growing nuclear power in the world. The U.S. has the biggest military in the world and the biggest nuclear arsenal. It is dangerous for us not to be having regular communications about our capabilities and intentions so we understand each other and so that miscalculations and misunderstandings don't lead to larger problems. So that's our purpose. We want to open up a dialogue, begin the process of getting our two countries to better understand each other, better get along, and then hopefully work together to help solve some of the problems that the world faces. We still have, massive issues of poverty and hunger across the world, terrorism, instability in a bunch of places in the world, protecting the environment to make sure that we can preserve this planet. These are all things that both China and the U.S. bring a lot to the effort to solve those problems. It would be so much better if we could work more closely together on them. So again, I thank you for your hospitality, for welcoming this delegation, and I am happy to take questions. or she is happy to take questions, I should say.
Let's start with Stephen John from CNN.
Thank you, Stephen John with CNN. So, Congressman Smith, I think I read in your remarks and statements, you raised quite a few issues that are U.S. priorities with the Chinese, including fentanyl and rare earths. But I don't know if you noticed, in their readout about the phone call between the two presidents last Friday, they did not mention fentanyl. They did not mention rare earth. So that seems to indicate quite a different list of priorities. So my questions to you is, like, how much do you think a visit like yours and your conversations could move the needle on those issues, especially when it comes to fentanyl and rare earths? And what are some of their main concerns or barriers for such cooperation as they have mentioned to you? And related to this, there is some analysts saying the Chinese have increasingly feel they hold the upper hand in dealing with the U.S. on all those issues. Did you get a sense of that? And how much of that do you think is them taking advantage of a polarized political environment in the U.S.? Thank you.
That's a lot of questions in there. If I miss one of them, feel free to remind me. Look, but I mean, the basic gist of the whole question, it sort of gets at the core problem. There's a lot of misunderstandings on both sides. If you sat down with Chinese leadership and asked them, okay, what are the issues? Where are you at? Where's the U.S. at? What's most important? What's least important? You would absolutely get a different set than if you sat down with the United States leaders and asked that same question. It's the basic of negotiations. As chair of the Armed Services Committee, I negotiated 4 different defense bills on 100 different issues. And many of those conversations started with, person here, person there, and that's where you start. And then you work towards each other. I've worked on legislation. I've worked on local issues. It's the same thing. You have to be willing to start the process of saying, okay, this is where I'm coming from. Where are you coming from? And we're not even at that point yet. We're still sort of talking past each other. So I think the things your question brings up are the things that we're here to try and solve and to have that conversation. This is what's important to us. China has things that are important to them. And like I said, I don't presume that there's some, okay, snap our fingers and we'll automatically resolve this. But I know how this process starts, and I have seen, as the diplomats here and my colleagues have seen as well, many things that seemed intractable and impossible, that once you actually started talking from the standpoint of let's try and resolve this, it is unbelievable what you can accomplish when you do that. And I think that's what China and the U.S. needs to do, because you pointed out some of the differences. We need to, I guess the joke is not necessarily get on the same page, but at least get in the same book as a starting point.
Janice McIntyre
I'm
from
sorry, let me
Sure, go ahead.
add one thing to that. You mentioned the President's call with President Xi. They had a great call. They're looking forward to getting together, as President Trump said, potentially in the near future, but certainly next year, early. These topics you bring up are actively being negotiated now. We just got back from Madrid, and you see the readout on that. We talked to Minister He Lefeng this week about that. So there's ongoing conversation. I would say that the relationship between President Xi and President Trump is actually very good and very encouraging right now.